Okay, are we live? Okay, I guess we're good. Sorry to whoever was, who stopped by this stream a second ago. I don't know what happened, but it just kept giving me an error and the camera stopped working. So, anyway, hello. Hopefully it's working now. Welcome back to Out of Body. If you're watching this in the replay, hi, thank you for watching. I am so sorry it's been a few weeks since I've done this. Just had some changes happen and just wanted to work a little bit more on my channel and work on how to make it better. And then I did something else stupid. I started a new channel, so probably stupid, I don't know. But I started a new channel. I actually had a beauty and makeup channel a few years ago. And I ended up quitting it because it was just a bad time in my life. Well, not a bad time, but just not a good time to start a YouTube channel. I had way too much else going on. I was like planning a wedding and doing a bunch of other stuff. So anyway, I quit it back then, but I did really enjoy it. So I just decided, I don't know, recently I was like, what the heck, I'll just start one just for fun. So I've linked it down below if that's something you're interested in. No pressure at all. I'm not looking to really go anywhere with that channel. I'm just doing it for fun because I do love makeup too. And I literally have an entire desk over here. Well, this desk right here is literally jam-packed full of makeup. Like, I don't know if you guys can see that, but like, here. Full of makeup. Like, every single drawer is just full of it. And, ugh. So I don't know, I just want to use it and do something with it before it expires too, and some of it probably has already expired. But anyway, aside from that, feel free to say hello if you're in the chat. Talk with each other if you want to. I am going to read a creepypasta tonight. I'm going to read part 2 to the story I read last time I live streamed, which was We Made Up a Ghost and Now It's Killing Us. There was something else I wanted to say. Oh, my background. For those of you who have been here for a while, you probably noticed I changed it up a little bit. I've got these lights back here, which I hung up myself, and they're a little askew, but anyway, they're purple lights. I thought they'd look cool. And then I've got like this little lantern here, and I got a little skeleton dude. I don't know if you can see him. Oh, he just fell. And yeah, I just kind of decorated it a little bit, added some lights to make it kind of more of a spooky feel. And now I'm out of focus. Oh, there we go. And I have a little ghosty back here. I like little ghost things. I got him a couple days ago. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and get started and read this story. You guys, if you're watching right now, feel free to say hi in the chat. And I'm gonna go ahead and get started on this story. Once again, it's called We Made Up a Ghost and Now It's Killing Us, and this is part 2. And it's written by Verastahl, the username Verastahl, and I found it in the subreddit nosleep on Reddit, of course, where I get everything. Anyway, alright, so here we go. What follows is my best recollection of what Ellis told me that night. I want to be clear before I start that I truly didn't remember anything more or different than what I told them or what I've written previously. And it wasn't like I just had a giant blank spot from age 10 to 15 or 20. I have memories, plenty of memories, of both my time at Stonebrook and what came after. It's just now I believe that I'm missing a great many things, and that at least a few of the things I do remember never actually happened. That's the best and only explanation I have for my relative ignorance of our collective past. It scares me, at least in part, because I now know that I've had one or more conversations with the rest of the 6, with my friends, about me not remembering things at all, or correctly. This was before they realized how deep-seated my block was and gave up trying out of some combination of frustration and fear that forcing me to remember would do me harm. So not only do I not remember the events themselves, I don't remember them trying to remind me of them. It makes me feel that my memory lapses go beyond shock or trauma, more like someone or something intentionally messed with my head. Even now, going over what I'm about to relay in this writing, I don't really remember it, at least not well. It's like I saw a movie of a portion of my life, and now I have trouble distinguishing what I actually remember of my life and what I'm just remembering from the movie. When I finish writing this, I'm going to call Mills and see if she's okay. Again, below is my best recollection of one of my last times I got to talk to one of my best friends. Alex, I know you say you don't know what we're talking about, and we believe you, we do, but stuff like you mentioning the Stonebrook Six, your reaction when I mentioned the professor, I think you still have those memories. They're in there somewhere, and maybe you've blocked them out somehow. Or maybe they're being kept from you. Either way, I think it would be good for you, for all of us, if we explained a bit and see if it'll stick with you this time. See if you're ready. Now, as you know, we all transferred from Jackson Elementary to Stonebrook Middle School at the start of 5th grade. The building was weird and kind of spooky, and we all mainly hung out with each other. Between classes, we started meeting up at the big oak tree that stood at the edge of the bus stop parking lot. But by 7th grade, we were changing classes as much as the high school and started running into older kids that were pissed that we were crowding their secret smoking spot behind the tree. We looked for another good hangout spot for a couple of weeks, but then Thomas and Cassidy found us another way into the lower rooms. You look a bit lost, so let me explain. The hallways of the school crisscrossed, with the vertical 4 halls being used for 5th through 8th grade, as well as special classrooms for things like music and clubs. The horizontal halls were used for 9th through 12th grade, and had the administrative offices and teacher's lounge. But as we figured out over time, each of those halls had another floor below it that wasn't connected to each other like the floors above. It gave each floor its own private basement. That's creepy. And while the rooms had been used for classes at some point in the building's past, by the time we got there, they were mainly for storage, or a secret hangout if you could find a door unlocked. The door to the basement of 6th grade's hall didn't lock securely, and by the time October of our 7th grade year had rolled around, we were already hanging out down there regularly. It wasn't as bad as it sounds. There was electricity, and the space was surprisingly clean, though there was a certain air of decay and disuse that always hung in the stale air. It was a spooky place. And the few times I was the first one to arrive, I had to fight the urge to go back upstairs until one of you got there. I think maybe that's what got us talking about ghosts. No, I interjected. I remember daydreaming in class about there being a ghost at school. I was by myself and bored. I think I brought it up to the rest of you. Ellis frowned, glancing at Mills and Thomas. Well, that could be right. Either way, it doesn't matter who brought it up first. We were all talking about it, and we were all a part of what came next. At first, it was just us swapping rumors and speculation that we had heard about the school as a way to pass time during breaks or lunch. Truth be told, most of it was fairly tame. It seemed the place that had been a college at one point, but nothing bad had ever happened there that we could tell. No grisly murders or dark rituals. No crazy people or monsters. Of course, mundane fact didn't satisfy for long. We would talk about the school being creepy, about maybe having seen something or heard something one time. There would be passionate debates about how a place that old and creepy must be haunted by at least one ghost, despite the lack of any evidence to support it. Then we turned to talking about what such a ghost would be like. Cassidy is the one that came up with the idea that it was probably a dead soul of a former college professor. The professor, she suggested, had probably fallen in love with one of his students, and when his advances were rejected, he had killed himself at the school, possibly in the very room we sat huddled in between 4th and 5th period. It was a short story, of course, and we all knew it. Or it was just a story, of course, and we all knew that. But stories have power. So does belief. I've been thinking a lot about that the last few days, and I think stories are living things. Whether you're telling the tale or just hearing it, you feed it with emotion and thought, with imagination and belief, and it evolves and grows. In time, the story can take on a life of its own. Over the next few weeks, we added a great deal to the professor. It became a kind of informal story contest, where we would all take turns creating stories that either plumb some chamber of the ghost or school's past, or reported on some more recent indication of the professor's continued presence at the school. Thomas's story was first. So now it kind of goes through each of the friends' version of the story. So the first one is Thomas's. I just want to put that out there so you're maybe not, if you might already be lost, but just rewatch this if you are. But yeah, just to let you know where we are, it's just going to kind of go through each friend's version that they made up of this ghost story. So the first one is Thomas's. So Thomas's tale. Thomas told us more details about how the professor was seen lurking around the halls of the college in the months following his death. The girl he had been in love with had dropped out after his suicide, but returned the following quarter. She was one of the few women at the school at the time, and this, combined with her prior absence, caused her to redouble her efforts to catch up and surpass her peers. One night, when she went to leave the school library, she found that she was locked in and alone. Well, except for the professor. The next morning, they found her bruised and bloody and in a gibbering heap. She never returned to school, and people say she died just a few weeks later of some unknown malady. Am I saying that right? I don't know. I've never heard that word before. Okay, so that's Thomas's version. And now it's moving on to Millicent's tale, or Mills, as they call her in this story. Mills added in how the building was actually built on the tribal grounds of the Arikara, a Native American tribe that once lived in the area. Or to be more accurate, she had added with dramatic flair a banished offshoot of the Akira, or Arikara, that had been shunned by the tribe for their extreme cruelty and dark magic practices. They had used the location as a site for their black rituals, and when they were driven from the land, European immigrants found themselves drawn to the place as well. A village had grown up in the spot in the early 1800s, being a prosperous trade hub for local farmers and distant merchants for nearly 50 years. Then, during the height of the Civil War, a small band of travelers had come to town to find every man, woman, and child slaughtered. The initial reactions were to blame a rogue detachment of Confederate or Union soldiers. But closer examination showed that the townsfolk appeared to have all turned on one another until the last one died of wounds she inflicted on herself. It was another 30 years before anyone dared to build in the area again. But people have a short memory when there's money to be made, and by 1900, the current town had started growing in that direction, and soon the school was being built. Some say the same dark forces that plagued earlier generations caused the professor to commit suicide, and may still stalk these halls today. So that's Mill's version of the story. And here's Ellis's version, Ellis's tale. When they bought the closed down college and started renovating it into the middle and high school, they found all these weird lower floor hallways. Apparently they had been used for classes at one time, all except the one we were meeting in. That one had been a lab the college had set aside for faculty to use, though only a couple ever did. One of those was named Arthur Chester, a chemist that was known for his obsessive devotion to his research and isolated lifestyle. When the school closed, everything was very chaotic, but they did try to make sure that everyone was out before they sealed everything up. They went into every underground chamber, calling out for people and checking for signs that someone was being left behind. But Arthur had taken to testing his compounds on himself and lay passed out in a dim corner of a black room. He never stirred, and they sealed him in with no idea at all. Ooh, that's awful. Let's see. When he awoke, it was another 2 days before he even knew he couldn't leave. And the theory was that he suffocated himself with gases. Sorry. He suffocated himself with gases from a concoction intended to blow the door off its hinges. All that's known for certain is that his face and hands were torn and broken from where he had frantically flung himself against the heavy metal door until his lungs or his heart finally gave out. Whew, that one's intense. Alright, Cassidy's tale. A few years back, before we were at Stonebrook, one of the freshmen saw something moving in the woods near the school. They thought it was a deer at first, and they pointed it out to a friend, but the friend didn't see anything. Intrigued and wanting to prove their friend wrong, they tried to get their companion to go with them into the wood's edge, but they refused. Determined now, they set off by themselves while their friend went off to class yelling a stern admonition that the teacher was going to skin them alive for missing class. When the freshman didn't come home that night, everyone began to search for her. It wasn't long before they zeroed in on her friend and what she might have seen. This led them to the woods, and while they had brought 10 people and a pair of dogs to search for her, it was unnecessary. She was hanging 30 feet up in the branches of a large tree, not far in and along the main trail through the woods. Her skin had been flayed away and spread like ragged wings behind her, and her lipless mouth was held open by what they first took to be one of her own notebooks. However, on closer inspection, they saw that it was actually an old essay blue book. Written on the inside cover was the name of the girl the professor had loved. Okay, so that's the end of each friend's story. Each friend's version of the story, I should say, that is made up about this ghost. Okay, so now it moves on. And I just want to say hello to anyone who's watching. If you're here, say hi in the chat or talk to each other or whatever. I'm just going to continue reading this story. When I get done, then if anyone's still here, we can chat for a little bit. I just thought I would go live since I haven't done this in a little while. And I'm just going to go ahead and continue. Alright, so these stories were told and retold over the course of several weeks. And every time that it would come to your turn, Alex, you would pass, saying you were still working on yours. We didn't push you, but we were starting to get tired of just rehashing the same old material, and for whatever reason, we didn't feel like we could move on to new stories or something else entirely until you were finished. So we started telling stories to others. I think we were all doing it on our own at first. I remember the first time I talked about it to any of you, about how I had a couple of buddies in gym class about the professor. I had told a couple of my buddies in gym class about the professor. I was surprised to find you had all been doing the same thing. Stuff like that isn't uncommon, of course. Every school or town or group of more than 5 people have rumors and superstitions. Most of the time they have their time in the limelight and then fade away. Some stick around for long enough to become urban legends or folk tales. But when we started telling people about the professor, it spread quicker and more powerful than any of us expected. Part of it is that we were all telling it like it was true. We had taken to telling each other stories among ourselves, you included, so we were all practiced at telling details of the tales without stumbling or lacking confidence. Another thing was that even though we were all known to be friends, we were all telling different people who then spread it to others. Within a month, our versions of professor stories had been told probably 50 times. That's not even counting the mutated versions, the spin-offs, the rip-offs, and straight-up news stories other people were creating of some kind of strange drive. Whether it was just an urge to be part of the current trend or something darker pushing them to do it. By Christmas, people were telling each other to watch out for the professor and don't go in the woods alone during the holiday. We thought it was hilarious, and we're more than a little proud that we had inadvertently created a school spirit, at least for a little while. We had kind of figured it would die back down when we came back in January, but that was before Jenna Hastings went missing. And that's the end of part 2. So of course it leaves you on a cliffhanger. I just noticed there is a part 3, so I will read that next time. But so let me see how long it is. Oh yeah, it's pretty long. I was gonna say if it's like a really short one, I might could go ahead and read it, but it's pretty long. So, and I want to pre-read it too. So anyway, let me look and see who's here. Hey, Graciela. I hope I'm saying that right. Graciela. If you're still here, hello. Game Generation. Oh, what am I doing here? Starting to type in the chat and I didn't mean to. Don't mind me, I'm just an idiot over here. And now it's not going away. Okay, there we go. And now the camera's turned around. There we go. Oh man, I'm the biggest idiot when it comes to these things. Game Generation, hey, how's it going? Oh goodness. Malady. Oh, okay, I said that right. I've never even heard of that word before, so. Anyway. I'm doing good. Doing good. Yeah, just sitting here reading stories and stuff. Just thought I would get on here. I usually try to do this every week, but I had done it the past couple weeks because one thing I was kind of working on my background a little bit, just getting some Halloween stuff, which strangely enough, it's hard to find Halloween like decorations right now, at least where I live. I don't know why. I mean, it's almost September. Well, and the funny thing is there's Christmas decorations like everywhere, and it's August. I'm like, are people forgetting about Halloween? Like, come on. So, anyway, but yeah, I've been working on my background and all that stuff, and I actually like DIY'd my own ring light. Like this light that's in front of me, it's a ring light, but I made it myself, so I may do a video on how I did that at some point. But anyway, so yeah, what are you guys up to? Oh, here I go again, screwing things up. There's already some Christmas stuff where you live? Yeah, I believe it. Oh, goodness. I mean, I'm all for Christmas. I like Christmas and everything, but it's just like, can we take each holiday as it comes, like one at a time? Do we have to, you know, do we always have to start Christmas in like, well, practically March? Oh, let me try this again here. Okay, there we go. Yeah, let me see if I've got something else I can read here, so you guys aren't bored. Let's see. Might have another one. No, I guess I could try reading part 3. I don't know, what do you guys think? Do you want to hear part 3 or are you lost? I haven't read part 3 before, so I don't even know what happens myself, so it might be kind of funny, I guess, to see my reaction. I don't know. I have no idea what happens next. Let's see. I just read the last line of part 3 and no spoiler alert there. like ends with someone screaming or something. Anyway, let's see here. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll go ahead and start reading part 3, I guess, just for the heck of it. Let's see. I'm gonna take a little sippy here. Yeah, I mean, I love holidays, but it just seems like, I don't know. I don't mind, like, if people start it early, but it just seemed like, you know, at least it don't, like, skip over holidays, like, completely skip over Halloween, because I love Halloween. Personally, like, that's my favorite holiday, you know? And I know a lot of people feel that way, you know, I'm not just the only one, so, I mean, I know typically Christmas is everyone's favorite holiday, I guess, which is fine, but, I don't know, Halloween's awesome, too. Anyway, I guess I'll go ahead and start reading part 3 here of the story. If you're just tuning in, this is the Reddit story from Nosleep called We Made Up a Ghost and Now It's Killing Us. And this is part 3. I have not read this, so I have no idea what's going to happen, so I'm not responsible for anything that happens in the story that somebody doesn't like. Okay, because I don't even know how it's going to turn out. Anyway, let's go here. So it starts out, Jenna Hastings was a sophomore at Stonebrook, and she went missing the day before Christmas Eve. The last time anyone had seen her, she was leaving the mall, bags of last-minute Christmas gifts in her hands, and walking across the parking lot towards the fast food place on the corner. We were already out for the holiday break at the time, so it wasn't until a few days after Christmas that it became a big enough deal that the news trickled down to us. I remember us all sitting in my attic playing Sorry because we were tired of being outside in the cold. Cassidy had just gotten there and was telling us about Jenna, and at first it was mildly troubling and interesting, but that was all. Jenna was 3 years older than us, which at 12 might as well have been 30 years older than us. And while we all had some vague idea of what she was, who she was, we didn't have a clear idea of her as a person. Indeed, she was more of a point of interest or a cautionary tale. But then Thomas decided to make a joke out of it. Cassidy had finished her short recounting of what she had overheard from her mother's phone conversation, and we were about to get back to the game when Thomas piped up with, "Maybe the professor got her." We all froze and looked at him. His proud grin started to fall away, and Mills punching him in the arm finished the job. "Idiot," she said with a scowl. "That's not funny, and it's dumb. The professor is made up." We were all nodding in agreement, and even at the time I knew that something felt wrong. We were all either 12 or 13, and none of us were known for being overly sensitive or afraid of dark humor. But we all shared a kind of desperate intensity in that moment, a need to not only rebuke what Thomas had said, but deny it. I thought about us sitting in that attic, scolding him while he grew sad and sullen. He didn't like being yelled at, but he didn't fight back like he usually would. It was as if he knew as much as the rest of us, that he had made a mistake beyond bad taste. I think that's one of the first times I knew we had somehow started to believe in the professor as well. The following week we were back in school, and we had carefully avoided any further mention of the professor among ourselves during the break, maybe in some unconscious attempt to kill the idea before it took deeper root. But our hopes that the rest of the school would have forgotten about our stories over the holidays were dashed as soon as we got off the bus that first morning back. 2 of the school janitors had just set up a pressure washer to blast paint off of the concrete walkway just a few feet from the bus lot. They had already started spraying, but we could still see the neon green words emblazoned across the ground like a brand. The paint on the ground read, "The professor took her. Who's next?" ? We found out later that the vandalism had had just been discovered half an hour before the buses started arriving, and they had it removed by that afternoon, but the damage had already been done. The school was on fire with fear and speculation now, and the larger world had started to take notice too. During a class change, we saw 2 policemen out at the walkway taking photographs of the now partially obliterated message. Then after lunch, we realized that they were still there, questioning several staff about it as well. The reason was obvious to everyone. They thought it could be connected to Jenna's disappearance, or at the very least, they wanted to cover every base just to be safe. Either way, this investigation just further validated the professor's existence to most of the students. Within the week, we were all hearing news stories about the school and the professor pop up, sometimes told by us, or sometimes told to us by the same people we had initially told the original stories to. For the first few days back, we tried to laugh it off or ignore it, and we didn't talk much about it among ourselves. But there was a tightening cord of tension running through all of us. It was quickly becoming something we didn't just not discuss. Oh, okay. It was quickly becoming something that we not only didn't discuss, but something we actively avoided discussing. Then a couple of things happened that changed everything. The first was at the 3rd week of January. Jenna Hastings was found. She had run off with a boy from the next town over that she had been secretly dating for over a year. He was an older boy who had made promises of taking her away from the drudgery of high school life and bossy parents, and who wound up leaving her at a burger joint 2 states away, not dissimilar from the local one he had picked her up from the day before Christmas Eve. Interesting. The town breathed a collective sigh of relief, and no one was more happy that she had been found than us. We began joking about how stupid people were to believe in the professor, how silly it all was. We would sit in our underground hideaway, sounding superior and proud of how everyone had come to believe in something we had made up, but the jokes and the laughter weren't quite the same as they had been before. Now they felt like we were whistling as we walked through the graveyard. Our forced humor and bravado meant to keep dark things at bay. In the next couple of months, talk of the professor did die down from its fever pitch after the graffiti, but it never really went away. And by the last week of school that year, we had just come to accept that for good or ill, we had created a new legend for the school and the town. I say for the town because there was actually a newspaper article about the professor about 2 weeks after Jenna Hastings was found. It was a puff piece in the local paper, and it was trying to trade on the drama of the missing girl who had been found while not explicitly saying her name. But it was undeniably about the teacher ghost that locals had started talking about in recent months, and gave poor summaries of a couple of the stories. A few of our parents asked us if we had heard anything about this ghost crap at school, and we denied it earnestly. We weren't ready to put it behind us. Or we were ready to put it behind us. Then Ellie Marks, that's a person's name, Ellie Marks, or as she was frequently called by her cruel fellow freshmen, Ellie Skid Marks, made the mistake of picking on Cassidy at school. Ellie was a heavy-set, unfortunately proportioned girl, and that combined with a dim intellect and a terrible temper led her to frequently shift between pitiable victim and merciless bully, depending on her surroundings. Likely from the outside, it was like watching some kind of social casualty experiment play out. She would get picked on, she would become hurt and angry, and then she would take it out on younger, smaller students. It's sad. Our group rarely had much problem with bullying, in part because we stuck together and kept to ourselves, and in part because Thomas and Mills would happily beat ass if someone tried to test things. Ellie had tried to test things a couple of times in the past, when Cassidy was alone. Cassidy, who was small and beautiful and delicate, who had boys already noticing her despite her best efforts to fade into the background. I think we all knew that Ellie had been dealt a harsher hand in life than Cassidy had, and that's part of why she had never gotten worse than a strong warning from Mills when she had tried saying mean things to Cassidy in the past. But the last week of school, the PE classes were all devoted to some combination of field relays and dodgeball. Oh God, I hated dodgeball. Sorry. Side note, that was personally like, that was like my least favorite day in PE class was dodgeball. I was always the kid that would like stand in the very middle of the gym and just let somebody hit me so I could just get out, just be knocked out and just get to sit on the sidelines. That's pathetic. Anyway, moving on. Yeah. So the last week of school, the PE classes were all devoted to field relays or dodgeball, and Ellie just couldn't resist. So apparently she liked it. You hated tennis? Oh yeah. See, I actually kind of like tennis. I don't know. I'm weird. I like basketball and tennis and like badminton and stuff, but dodgeball, I don't know. I think it was because, I mean, I'm a girl, and a lot of the boys in the class that I was in would just like, they were fierce with those dodgeballs. They would just plummet you. They didn't care if you were a girl or if you were tiny. I was like a little bitty thing back then too. And they didn't care. They would just hit you as hard as they could, and I hated it. I was just like, just go ahead and hit me. Get me out. Anyway. Okay, so myself, Mills, and Cassidy were all in the same dodgeball game that day, and we were on the second round. Dodgeball always runs the risk of turning into a brutal free-for-all, like I just said. I swear I haven't read this before. But the teacher, Miss Perkins, did a good job of keeping her PE classes in line. That's good. No one had gotten hurt, and everyone was having a pretty good time so far. When Ellie got the ball in that second round, she headed straight for Cassidy. Dodgeball sucked because they focused like one person at a time for some reason. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was just, yeah, dodgeball was just no fun. Okay, let's see. So when Ellie got the ball in the second round, she headed straight for Cassidy. Based on the rules, she wasn't supposed to go over to her team's half of the basketball court to make her throw, and the first throw she didn't. The rubber ball thudded into Cassidy's lower back, startling her more than hurting, I think, but it was enough to get her off balance and send her to the floor. It was like seeing a falling gazelle for Ellie. She scooped up another ball as she charged towards Cassidy, waiting until she was standing over her before throwing it hard at her upturned face. Cassidy let out a yell, and Miss Perkins began running over, blowing her whistle and hollering for Ellie to get back. The older girl started mumbling some half-hearted excuse that it was an accident, but the smirk on her face said that she knew she was caught and didn't care. Ugh. Another side note. Here I go on bunny trails again, but I said earlier I blame the boys. It was some of the girls too. Like, we had some girls in my elementary school that just, I don't know if they felt like they had to prove something or what, but they just acted very butch and all that, which that's fine, you know, I don't care about that, but it's just they would pick on the rest of us girls that weren't that way, you know, that didn't like sports or whatever, and it's like they had something to prove, and they would make a point to try to like hurt you or beat you or something like that, you know, beat you at the game or whatever, and it was just, ugh. Anyway, so I can totally relate to this. Can relate. So me and Mills rushed over to Cassidy, who was sitting up but had a large red welt starting to rise on the left side of her face, and her eye kept pouring water. Oof. When she saw the two of us, she started crying. I bent down and hugged her. Behind me, I could hear Mills talking to Ellie. "You just messed up, Skidmark. We're going to get you for this." Normally, Mrs. Perkins would have jumped Mills for language and a threat like that, But I think she half wanted to hit Ellie herself. So she just told Ellie to go to the principal's office immediately and that she would be coming along in just a minute. She then turned back to Cassidy, who I had helped to her feet. Perkins was asking if she was okay, if she needed to go to the nurse, when we started to hear Ellie scream. Oh boy, what's going to happen next? It took a moment for anyone to find Ellie because the sound of her screams seemed to echo down the 12th grade hall and into the gymnasium. Perkins and an assistant principal, who had left the school at the end of the year, finally realized that she was screaming from behind the locked metal door that led down into the lower rooms beneath the 12th grade hall. Ooh. They fumbled around until they found the key, and when they opened the door, they saw Ellie laying at the bottom of the stairs in a screeching heap. Her right leg had been broken, which could be accounted for by a bad fall down the concrete steps. But what was stranger were the bones of her hands, which had been crushed. They were damaged to such an extent that she could never use the left one again. And the right one, the one she had thrown the dodgeball with, ultimately had to be amputated after several failed surgeries trying to restore blood flow. Wow. It wasn't lost on anyone that this had all happened right after she hurt Cassidy, and it didn't take long for everyone to also realize that you and Thomas were in class when it happened, and the three of us were standing in front of a couple of dozen witnesses at the time. Plus, there was the fact that Ellie had somehow gotten past a locked door before she fell. But all of that was secondary to the biggest thing that made everyone at the school certain of what had caused Ellie's injuries. It was Ellie herself. While she never returned to school at Stonebrook, and we never heard of anyone talk to her about it later, close to 100 people had heard her screaming down in that dark hallway that day. They heard what she said before her cries of pain and terror had compressed her into a wavering animal wail. Okay, and the next few lines is apparently what she screamed. Yeah, so I'm going to read that now. It says, "Ah! Oh God! Oh no! It's got me! No! Get it off! Or me! Off me! My hands! No! Professor! No!" So she says professor. So anyway, that's the very end of that. Oh, and there's a part 4. Joy. Okay, cool. Well, I will save that one for next time because my voice is probably going to cut out here in a minute. But this story's getting interesting though. What do you guys think about it? Oh boy. That is very, very interesting. So what you guys up to tonight? Oh, I'm probably gonna cut it out here a little bit soon, but I appreciate you guys stopping by and listening. Really appreciate that. And hey, if there's ever a story that you guys want me to read, like, feel free to recommend me one, or I think I've got my email in the description. If I don't, I've got my Twitter and stuff. So like if you want to submit a story, you can submit it through Twitter or something like that. But hey, of course, Game Generation, thanks for stopping by. I really appreciate it. It's fun for me. I enjoy doing this. So anyway, yeah. So I'll probably go for now, I guess. But yeah, you guys have a good night. And if you're watching this in a replay and you got to the end, congratulations. And this was kind of a hot mess, but I'm going to try to do this more often. I know I always say that, but I really am. It may not be every week. I know I said before I would do it every single week, but since I do work a full-time job Monday through Friday, and I'm also in a band, and I now started a second channel I'm kind of, you know, a little bit more busy, and it's hard to like commit to like the same time every week. So anyway, it might be Thursdays, it might be a couple weeks from now, but I'll try to do it every week. But if you follow me on Twitter, that's when I put updates on there, like when I'm going to go live and all that. So anyway, thanks again everyone for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!